Welcome to JC Sports. I'm your host, Joe Chap, Detroit Lions News Podcast on the JC Sports YouTube page. We got a big game coming up on Monday Night Football. Just so great. Now, when we came into the season, I don't think any of us realistically thought the Detroit Lions would be 3.5 point favorites over the 49ers this late in the season, the 50 and a half over under. But obviously, injuries have got the best of the 49ers. Obviously, when you look at the 49ers and you think about what they've been able to do and what the things that they've been dealing with in terms of injuries and personal issues. I mean, they've had it rough. I mean, especially with Tre'Davious Ward and Trent Williams with the death of their kids, which we all are praying for them for their comfort and their healing in the process. Trent Williams has been shut down for the year. So is Dre Greenlaw. So is the other tackle. The name is escaping me because I've been just trying to. I recorded a couple times, but when I think about this game coming up, I don't think any of us saw this team, the 49ers, not being playoff eligible. I really don't think that was ever the case, but nevertheless, they are. And Detroit is undefeated on the road. So did you know the Lions have a 7-0 record on the road this season? Would be the third team over the last 10 seasons to finish undefeated on the road. And each of the last two teams made the Super Bowl, 2020 Chiefs and the 2016 Patriots. And you think that's rare company to be in because usually when you are good on the road, it means you're battle tested. It means you can go into enemy territory and win football games. And that's what the Detroit Lions have been able to do. Obviously, their two losses have came at home, which is surprising to be honest. But when you think about the 49ers and you think about this 49er team, it's a lot more. It's probably one of the easier road games that you're going to play in terms of obviously you could play Tennessee on the road or you could play Jacksonville on the road, but the 49ers are done, right? But they're not going to mail it in. They're going to play hard. And we got to talk about one player who is not going to mail it in. He's playing a hell of a year with the 49ers, and that's Nick Bosa. Nick Bosa has generated a team leading 54 pressures and averaged the quickest pass rush get off at 0.69 seconds of his career. However, he's averaging a career low pressure rate of 15.3. Additionally, he has only generated more than 5 pressures in a game twice this season. After doing so at least 5 times every season, he's played 10 games. Matchup in last season's NFC Championship game against the Lions, Bosa generated 7 pressures on 42 pass rushers. That was 16.7% of his time, including 5 pressures in under 2.5 seconds. Specifically, Bosa generated 3 pressures and 15 on 15 matchups against Taylor Decker. However, he did not generate a single pressure on 18 matchups against Penei Sewell, which leads to the next thing about Nick Bosa. So the next thing about Nick Bosa is really this is crucial here. Nick Bosa tends to hunt matchups against offensive linemen, and he is only one of 12 players in the league with multiple games, minimum 20 snaps, spending over 75% of his snaps on both defensive left edge and right edge. He's done both in 6 games. He did left edge and the right edge. He's done 2. In the past 2 weeks since returning from injury, Bosa spent 80.9% of his snaps over Ron Hammerstein of the Rams and 84.9% of his snaps over Kendall Liam of the Dolphins, rather than matching up against the Rams' Alaric Jackson and on Dolphins' Teron Armstead. So what you can expect here is very simple. Nick Bosa is going to line up against Taylor Decker, and he's going to try to get the best of Taylor Decker. Obviously, last year he did get the best of Taylor Decker. Most of his pressures last year came against Taylor Decker, and that's a matchup to watch because when you think about Penei Sewell, he doesn't let you get pressure. He doesn't let you get sacks. And obviously, Nick Bosa coming off an injury, obviously he's going to go with the easier matchup. And he thinks the easier matchup is Taylor Decker. Go ahead. Fine. That's cool. But, you know, going against Penei Sewell, you're going to be going against one of the best players on the team. So he's going to choose his matchup, and he's probably going to pick Taylor Decker. And if I'm Taylor Decker, bring it on. Just bring it on. We'll get going. So when you look at that, he's going to choose his matchup. The 49ers, they got some. Nick Bosa is the only guy that you're gonna have to watch out for on that defensive line. And as an offensive lineman, you're gonna have to block this guy. And obviously, he's gonna be coming from both sides, and he could split it up during the game and kind of go to the right side, then go to the left side, and try to confuse the Lions in terms of their alignment or something like that. But in terms of picking his matchup, you know he's going to go after Taylor Decker, which brings up the next one. So we go to the offensive side of the ball for the 49ers, and let's look at this. Deebo Samuel lined up in the backfield on 11 snaps last week against the Dolphins, his most backfield snaps in a game since week 13 of 2022. Samuel is now lined up in the backfield on 53 snaps this season, the most such snaps among all wide receivers, 17 more than the closest wide receiver, which is Jaden Reed. As a result, Deebo has recorded the most carries, 39, and the second most rushing yards among all wide receivers this year. And the reason that they're doing it is the 49ers are badly injured at running back. They're on their third string running back, which could be their fourth string running back if Guerendo can't play. And if Guerendo can't play, they're going to be on their fourth string running back. So if I'm the Detroit Lions, if I'm Aaron Glenn, I expect to see Deebo Samuel back in the backfield, taking handoffs. He could be a potential mismatch nightmare on these Detroit Lions linebackers. When you think about what happened in the Buffalo Bills game where they were kind of confused on, these, where they got James Cook or Ray Davis or one of their tight ends lined up on a linebacker. It was basically a free play. Like the Detroit Lions could not stop it. So if I'm Aaron Glenn, I am going to keep close tabs of Deebo Samuel. And if I have to, especially with Ifatu Melifonwu coming back, I think I'm going to put, him as a spy on Deebo Samuel because Deebo can go anywhere. And if he's in the backfield, he can come out as a runner or he can come out as a pass catcher, and he's dangerous. And that leads to the next one, because when you think about dangerous, you think about George Kittle. Kittle has accumulated 484 yards after the catch this season, second among tight ends, also recording the second most yak per reception, 7.1, and second highest yak success rate of 67.8 among all tight ends with at least 20 receptions. When you think about the 49ers and you think about what they're able to do against teams, George Kittle has been amazing. Obviously, when you look at Deebo Samuel, you could say, oh, that guy's a mismatch nightmare. Well, George Kittle is definitely a mismatch nightmare. And his yards after the catch, he's one of the best in the league at getting yards after the catch. I say Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends in the league, but I say George Kittle is the most like a wide receiver. Like he is just he can get the ball and he can make some plays with his feet, and that's exactly what he's been able to do all year long. And obviously the 49ers have relied on him because of no Christian McCaffrey, no Brandon Ayuk for most of the year. They've been relying on Deebo and Kittle to kind of bring them home. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Detroit Lions, who they're going to match up against George Kittle, because that will be the biggest play of the game. And obviously Detroit's been a good tackling team, but they're going to have to be a good tackling team against these two, Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. So we go to the offensive side of the ball. We go to the defensive side of the ball with Detroit, and obviously you look at these two. Jack Campbell has tackled opposing rushers for a loss of EPA 48 times and 277 run defensive snaps, generating the second highest run stop rate at 17.3 among all all players with at least 200 snaps in the defense. Then you look at Kirby Joseph this season. Kirby Joseph has allowed the lowest passer rating and the third lowest completion percentage rating in the NFL among all safeties since 2018. So potentially, obviously, Deebo Samuel is going to be used as a running back. Obviously, George Kittle is going to be he's going to be that pass catcher. Maybe you put Kirby Joseph on, assigned coverage on George Kittle, or maybe you put him on Deebo Samuel, somewhere where you can kind of dictate the matchups. Because what Kyle Shanahan does do really quickly is he does do a lot of motion in his offense. And if you don't really have the right matchup on like a guy like Deebo Samuel or a guy like George Kittle, they're going to burn you for at least a touchdown or more. And they did that against the Detroit Lions in the NFC Championship game. So if I'm Aaron Glenn, I'm going to be keeping close eye on both those players. And obviously Kirby Joseph and Jack Campbell are going to be a huge part of it. When we look at the Detroit Lions and we look at the offensive line, it's very key here because Jameer Gibbs has gained 10 or more yards on 16.3% of his carries, the highest explosive run rate among all players with at least 100 design runs this season. And when you think about the Detroit Lions and them going against the San Francisco 49ers, you look at Fred Warner. He is their best run defender. Isaac Yiadom He's one of their best. Nick Bosa, Nick McLeod. There's a lot of safeties in there. So Jahmyr Gibbs gets to the second level. We know Jahmyr Gibbs is an elusive guy. We know he's a very elusive guy who can get out and speed in space, and he's going to make you miss. And obviously, with Fred Warner with his bum ankle, obviously, if he gets to the second level, he's going to make people miss. And I think that's the most interesting part of this game because obviously we know Jahmyr Gibbs is an explosive guy. And I think this could potentially be his coming out party to the national audience. When you think about Jahmyr Gibbs playing against the 49ers, a lot of people don't get the chance to watch him on a national scale. We've been on a national TV, but this is Jahmyr Gibbs' first time being the focal point of the offense with Dave Montgomery out. So it'll be interesting to see how they do it. The San Francisco 49ers, they rank 15th in rushing yards. They're pretty good against the pass. They're pretty good against total yards, but their points, they give up 23.3 points a game. And that's just exactly what it is. If Detroit's able to dictate the run game, which Jahmyr Gibbs, this could potentially be his breakout game to the national audience because he's getting all the carries. Dave Montgomery isn't here no more. He's hurt. He's injured. He's not going to be in this game. So that will be interesting right there. But if we look at another guy who can make a potential huge thing to this game right here, it's Jared Goff. And Jared Goff entering week 17, the 49ers have blitzed at the second lowest rate in the league with this season with 18.2. Their lowest blitz rate since at least 2018. When Jared Goff has not blitzed this season, he recorded the second most yards per attempt at 8.5 and completed 72% of his passes. That's the third highest in the NFL. And if they don't want to blitz Jared Goff, they're going to pay. If you don't blitz Jared Goff, I know it's going to be tough because Detroit has so many weapons that they could use at their disposal. But if the 49ers do not want to blitz Jared Goff, they're going to be in for a rough day because the guy he's going to be throwing to is Mr. Reliable, Amon-Ra St. Brown. This season, Amon-Ra St. Brown has caught 81.5% of his targets, the highest catch rate among wide receivers in the past 3 seasons, minimum 50 targets. And when you think about what the Lions do best, they're good at the short passing game. They're very, very stout at that. When you look at the 49ers defense in terms of their short passing game, they're 22nd in the NFL. Passing versus play action, they're 20th in the NFL. Passing versus a blitz, Detroit's offense ranks number 2. The 49ers, they rank 29th. So even if they blitz, they're not getting home. So that's what you got to look at with this team. So, and if we look at if we go look over the statistics of these guys, obviously Patrick Taylor is the guy who could potentially start for the 49ers at the rushing game for running back. I mean, they're just beat to shreds. And, Patrick Taylor is he's no Christian McCaffrey or even Jordan Mason, but Isaac Rendo could be a game time decision. So it'll be interesting to see what happens on Monday Night Football with the Detroit Lions and the 49ers. Obviously, as we said, 3.5 point favorites against the 49ers. The 49ers, there's not many times they're underdogs at home, but this Monday they will be, and it'll be interesting to see what happens on Sunday with the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings, because if the Detroit Lions, they don't need any motivation to play the 49ers, but if the Minnesota Vikings lose to the Green Bay Packers, there's some added motivation. I think Detroit's going to win. I think they're going to cover this spread, but I don't give it, I don't book it. I don't say it's a guarantee because this 49ers team has been shown to play really, really tough, and they're going to give you everything they got. They're going to give you everything they got. And obviously, we know that Nick Bosa could be a problem. We know that Deebo and George Kittle could be a problem, but we also know Detroit has, a lot of players at their disposal that could be a problem for the 49ers. So we'll see you on the pregame podcast before the Detroit Lions versus San Francisco 49ers. And we'll see you on the postgame podcast as well on here on Detroit, on JC Sports YouTube page. And I want to put this out here. We interviewed Billy Sims last week. You can go look at Detroit Lions News podcast on Apple or Spotify or even YouTube, and you can watch it there. But thank you for watching. Subscribe below if you like the content. Obviously, I'm just trying to get this done before I go on a little vacation to Traverse City. But I'll see you guys in the next video as we talk more Detroit Lions football here on the JC Sports YouTube page, Detroit Lions News podcast. Thank you for watching.